NorCal, 209 King of Comedy. It's Rick without the K. James presents, in my opinion, podcast. All right, you guys, here we go. Another episode. This time we're gonna do it a little bit different.
Okay.
It's gonna be about hip hop. Normally, I give each other's names and then I get into it that way. But I want to give some background. I want to give some background to the viewers.
Okay.
So, to my right, I have Kara. You grew
Hello.
up in Hayward,
Yes.
Hayward?
Yes.
Bay Area. For those of you that don't know, that's Bay Area. That's Haystack. And then I have my boy Rudy Ortiz to my left.
It's cracking.
And he grew up in San Leandro.
San Leandro, yes, sir.
So we've got three people that I've lived in the Bay Area myself here and there. But we're going to talk about hip hop. I don't know about you guys. I'm primarily an East Coast person. So
I always had that feeling, man. I knew the guy was from Texas and then spent a lot of time in California, and I see him repping nothing but East Coast. It's always New York hats or Wu-Tang related stuff.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, I just have that swag, that East Coast swag. So I'm going to be partial to East Coast. But let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
We'll start with something simple.
Well, hold on a second. Who told you have East Coast swag?
My mama.
Where's she from? Houston? She's from Houston. Talking about, son, you know what? You got that East Coast swag.
No, she's from El Paso. That's
El
even worse,
Paso,
bro.
yeah. Even more closer to the West Coast. But anyway, no, go ahead.
But we're gonna jump into it, and we're gonna do it nice and slow, and then we'll get into real hip hop shit. But
Right.
I figured we'd ease into it with first favorite albums when it comes to hip hop. I think we were talking about this a little bit off camera before you got here, Rudy.
Yeah.
And I said I'm probably gonna be all '90s in my shit.
For sure.
Probably early thousands. I don't really listen to new hip hop, so
No.
I'm gonna say some of my first favorite albums for myself, and then I'll kick it over to you, Rudy.
sure.
Is my first favorite album that I like to tell everybody is Jay-Z's first album, Untouchable. That's his best work to me.
Okay.
And I've always heard an artist say it's usually their best album is their first album because it took them a lifetime to get to that album, and then the next album they have to push out a year or two after. So they got
Better than Reasonable Doubt?
Oh, that's what I meant. Reasonable Doubt.
Okay, I
Reasonable
was
Doubt.
about to say,
Did I say
yeah.
Untouchable?
I'm like, hold on, yeah.
Yeah, Reasonable Doubt. His first album, Reasonable Doubt. 50 Cent's first album, fucking a banger.
Rich or Die
Nelly's
Trying.
first album, a banger. So I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts. So what are some of your favorite
Some of my
albums?
favorite first albums, right off the bat, Dr. Dre, The Chronic. That was, I could not stop listening to that cassette. And it was a cassette. I want y'all to know that. I want y'all to know I'm from the cassette era, bitch. You know?
That was high school.
Can we curse here?
Yeah,
All right, cool.
go ahead.
We can't talk about hip hop and not say bitch. All right, so The Chronic for sure, and then followed by Doggy Style by Snoop Dogg because they were kind of like in the same era. And then I would also say one that I couldn't stop listening to was Outkast, Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music.
yeah.
That long ass complicated title that looks like it needs to buy a vowel. And then on top of that, I would probably say in terms of really good first albums, Slim Shady, the Marshall Mathers, or the Slim Shady LP.
Really?
Yeah, I thought, dude, that was a phenomenal first like punch you in the mouth type of album. When they dropped the single, "Hi, my name is."
Oh, yeah.
I turned to the radio. I remember doing my homework when I heard that over there, and we had a radio that was like radio/TV, and the shit just started playing. I was like, drop my pencil, like, who the fuck is this guy? And I just looked into it. I started listening to the whole song, and I was like, when that album comes out, I'm gonna find it. And the shit was good. It was a good first album.
I remember hearing that first song, and I was all, this dude is fucking gonna blow up like nobody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, I favor his sophomore album. You know, I think
That was the Marshall Mathers LP?
Yeah, the Marshall Mathers
Really?
LP. That I think because I had just joined, I was just in the Air Force, and somebody went and copped. I don't know. Well, you guys are my age, right? Or damn near my
Right.
age, right?
I'm 21, y'all. Just know that
'cause
shit.
for you
I'm
young
just
people-
weathered.
For you young people, you guys get albums dropped whenever. We only got albums dropped on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So you couldn't wait for fucking Tuesday
Nope.
to come.
Yeah.
And you'd have to be the first one to have that album.
Yeah.
So I remember when his sophomore album dropped, it was a Tuesday. By Wednesday, half the base was bumping that shit.
Right,
so,
right.
And that's
a
where
different
the,
era.
the Kill You song came out, all that shit. So
Like albums dropping meant something different back then because there was more
completely.
scarce, you know. It was like
Yeah.
time. There was more
Yeah.
time in between albums, you know.
Definitely.
So, Kara, first albums. As you look at your notes, she brought
Sorry,
notes.
Hey, no, she's
I
prepared.
look at notes so that I didn't forget anything.
Kara's on point. The rest of us schmucks are over here just making shit up, you know, as we go.
There's too much up in here where I didn't want to forget things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I have the Low End Theory, Tribe Called Quest.
great one.
Love everything they did.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
My first one that got me into all of their group was De La Soul.
Yes.
Yeah. Potholes in My Lawn. And then I have Only Built for Cuban Links because I love Raekwon.
That's a good one.
Love Raekwon.
Oh,
So-
we're gonna
Yeah.
get to that.
I know. His eyes
We got some
lit up.
questions about
So,
Wu-Tang.
That
yeah,
W started beating
I'm
and shit.
Definitely East Coast with him.
For sure.
Definitely.
Well, this is going to be interesting because I do favor the West Coast. I have East Coast love and I have East Coast knowledge. And I grew up to East Coast music because 90s
Yeah.
was like saturated with East Coast music for a while.
Yeah. Oh, completely.
At the beginning and at the end too. But I favor the West Coast. So this will be interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. This should
So
be
since
good.
we're on first albums, my question to both of you is, and I'll swing it over your way right now. Is first album for Pac and first album for Biggie. What do you think of their first albums?
Ooh, that's hard.
Tupacalypse Now versus Ready to Die.
Yeah,
Those are the two first
Are those
albums?
two things that you would
Yeah, we're
have
talking
to? Again, back in our days, you'd have to have the CD and shit,
Yeah,
right? So,
for sure.
are those two CDs that you're, man, I need to have those as part of my collection?
Yes, I have both.
Right.
I will say I play Biggie a lot more.
Yeah.
But Pac, I do love his first album. Yeah. Once he got more farther into some of the other stuff, I didn't like as much. But his first album, yes, because he was still more Oakland hometown for us.
He was a little more political, right? Because that was
He
Brenda's Got a
was.
Baby on it.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Right?
his first album really was more. I think it was more genuine to who he was before he became, caught up like in the
character.
gangster lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which ended up being his demise.
Yeah.
So that sucked. But you're right. Tupacalypse Now was more the Tupac Shakur that people remember as like having a big heart, had
Yep.
these big beautiful smile and all, like more homely. It almost
Yeah.
felt like The other shit was more gangster shit.
All right, so since you said you bumped Biggie more, I guess I'd have to ask you because I just thought of it while you were saying all that. We lived in the Bay Area when Tupacalypse came out, and I remember my brother bumping it and having his mini truck, and my dad was stationed in Alameda and shit, right? My dad was stationed in Alameda, so I just remember putting on Tupacalypse, and I was like, "Who is this?" And my brother's
Right.
like, "Oh, this is Tupac, blah blah blah. He's from this area, and this, that, and the other," which he really wasn't, but
Right, he was from a lot of places, man.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Tupac fan, but I
Yeah.
also recognize the faults that he had in terms of his development as a public figure. Because towards the end of his life, he died doing some foolishness. It wasn't even his lifestyle, but he adapted to it because he was with Death Row. And he had to be a Death Row guy.
I want to say he was the first Takashi 6ix9ine, but
Oh my
people
God.
gonna hate me on that
No,
shit.
no.
Yeah,
No,
he
it's
was
not-
he was kind of playing the
No.
thug.
No,
you
he
know what I
wa-
mean?
no,
So
But if you grew up with Digital Underground, you did look at Tupac different when he first came out
right.
than when he went to Death Row and everything after.
yeah,
He was a completely different person.
Because Tupac, when he was with Digital Underground, and there's the Evolution of Hip Hop on Netflix. If
Yeah,
you guys
yeah,
watch
yeah.
the Bay Area edition. Shock G says it. He goes, "Look, man, like when he was with us, we knew his talent level,
Yeah.
and we knew he wasn't going to stay with us. He wasn't going to be a part of Digital Underground forever. He was using us as a stepping stone because he had bigger, ambitions.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did. He moved into the solo part of his career, and that's really where he blew up.
So out of those two first albums, which one did you bump?
I bumped Ready to Die more, to be honest with you. I really did. I really did. You want to know why? Because Ready to Die came out at a time where like the East Coast wasn't really popping, and it had kind of tucked away for a little while because the
Yeah.
West Coast took over in the early '90s.
Yeah, when Chronic
And
came out.
yeah,
it was
Pac
over.
and Death Row, or not Death Row, but Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, like all these cats were dominating, right? So for me, as somebody who enjoyed listening to rap music, when I heard the East Coast style come from this big dude, doing Juicy with the soulful beat and everything, and I'm like, he's telling a story, and I'm into that shit. So when his album came out, I was like, I need to hear more of this dude. And when I heard more, and I just heard like the jazzy soulfulness,
I want to
was
say
in.
and people aren't gonna like this, but I want to say that both of those albums, at least for me, weren't albums that I can play from front to back, like Ready to Die.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Ready to Die, I can bang all them tracks and be cool. I want to say both those albums probably had 2-3 tracks top that I was like, man, that was a cool album. And that's the way I used to judge as a
Right.
kid when I
Oh,
bought an
yeah.
album. Because, you know, we'd have to save up lunch money and do other. I'd have to go mow lawns and
Yeah.
shit to buy a fucking tape at the flea
Yeah.
market. So I looked at it like, man, if I had to mow this lawn and do work for an hour and a half, and only 2 songs were good on this fucking
Yeah.
album, it was not worth me buying the goddamn
Right. You know
album.
how many
bro.
fucking blades of grass I have to rake up for this shit?
So did you guys listen to the album front to back?
Ready to Die, yeah. I really enjoyed how dark it was. You know, I was a young kid at the time. I had some angst brewing in me and shit. And when I heard him talking about, you know, fuck my life and fuck my mom's, like that was shocking to me. You know what I'm saying? I was like, damn, that really caught me. And Tupac wasn't at that stage yet. He was still like speaking from the heart, which is dope.
Yeah.
But like the darkness that Biggie hit you with right out the bat, right out the gate, I loved it. That's why I listened to it.
I think that's my thing with New York is a lot of their first albums were straight from the street and straight from their heart and what they came from.
Yeah.
Which, depending on where you grew up in the Bay Area, really hit you harder than listening to something, you know, like you and I have said, some of those Bay Area, West Coast things, their music is, the beats all sound the same. And they don't really have that different hard beat and that hard street life.
Yeah, like that
I know
edge
that
to
that's
it. They
bad,
put
but
well, there's
yeah.
there's more edge. It's grimier. Like that time was grimier for New York. You know, they've
Yeah.
always been able to like be a little grimier because the East Coast has always been better lyricist. You know, they've always like really prided themselves on
man, you're gonna
lyricism.
have
But
people
coming
hating
from
on it.
a lot of
I mean,
them
it's
came
real
from-
talk though. We all know. I mean, the epicenter of hip hop is the East Coast.
The Mecca, yeah.
The whole idea of what it is to be an MC and spitting lyrics and having bars that originated from there. I'm
And
not saying that they're the only ones that could do
No.
it, but you know.
But Harlem and other areas at that point were hard.
Yeah.
Like, not like they are now. And it's just like Oakland, too. Like, you've got all kinds of different races moving in there now and things totally different than what they were at that time. But yeah, like 125th Street, like you couldn't mess with that.
Right.
Well, I think because we're all old enough that and we'll talk about the Bay in a little bit, but you know, just growing up in the Bay, you know, I remember East 14th. I don't know what the fuck they call it because I still call it
Hostro.
East 14th
It's
now.
international.
So
Well, it's international now, but
International
it's East
Boulevard.
14th.
its true name is the Hostro.
So pretty.
That's what it's really good. Might as well they christened it the Hostro. Doesn't matter what your birth certificate says; it's what your uncles call you.
Boy, Charlie Murphy, my main man, Rick James. That's the one you think, the comedian Rick James. Get up.
I can't hear my neighbor crying, I can't breathe.
Please hit the subscribe button down low so you can see all new clips, all new episodes coming to you.